There are some people out there who are the proud owners of every single Ninjago ninja minifigure, but I've always been more interested in the villains. To me, they represent the incredible diversity of Ninjago, and they prove that it hasn't ran out of ideas yet. In the longest video of my channel so far, we are taking a look at all 22 main Ninjago villain minifigures. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a collection I started building about 3 years ago, hoping to one day make this video, and finally, after a month of work, it's completed. Before we start, here's the kind of minifigures you'll see in this video. First off, no secondary villains. By this I mean villains such as Kozu, Cryptor, and Samukai. Despite what other YouTubers say, I don't consider them main villains, but rather they're secondary to someone else who is more significant in their seasons. They will not be in this video. Also, you will only see the form of the villain from their season. For example, White Pythor will not be in this video, but Purple Pythor, as you see in the top left, is. Pythor was the main villain of Season 1, so his Season 1 minifigure is here, not his Season 3 or Season 4 minifigure. And lastly, I will be including specials and the Dark Island Trilogy, so that's why Klaus is here. He's not here because of Season 4. Okay, that was a lot of boring explanation, so sorry about that. But we're finally ready to start, so let's begin. Our first one here is going to be the 2011 two-armed Garmadon, the main antagonist of the pilots. And in comparison to our recent villain minifigures, this one is a lot more simple, obviously. There's just not as much going on. But it is kind of different for Garmadon, because two arms, not something we see too much for him after this wave, especially for villains. And also this helmet. So this minifigure made use of this helmet piece, this samurai helmet piece, which is a bit more wide than the piece they use starting from 2012, but I think it's kind of cool. You know, it's different, and clearly they thought the other helmet was better, so they stopped using this one after this year. But this minifigure, this is the basis for his torso, which is still going to be used up until 2018, and it shows kind of like this ribcage pattern with the bones. It's very simple, but it definitely fits given his status as the king of the underworld, and he's got the simple purple belt. That's kind of all there is on the legs. It also fits his color scheme, just, you know, black and purple, some gray and white. As you see, there's no back printing. Again, very, very simple. But as for the helmet, if we take this off, you can get a better look at his face. This face is used for his 2011 minifigures, or 2012 minifigures as well, I believe. And just the classic face, you know, red eyes, eyebrows, his mouth, and that scowl. It's pretty cool, and again, this is a very simple minifigure, but this was the one that started it all, and is going to be the start for our main villain minifigure collection. And then things get a bit weird because we have this Season 1 Pythor minifigure. Pythor is the main antagonist of Season 1, and we are introduced to this iconic neck piece, which is also kind of disliked for how bizarre it looks. And yeah, I mean, overall, this minifigure is quite cool. But the headpiece, it's interesting because as you see, it's quite long. It goes up towards the back, it goes forward, and then there's this mouth expression, which is just perpetually open. I know some people definitely wanted a minifigure where his mouth isn't just wide open like this, but it is kind of intimidating in a way. You see his teeth, you see his eyes, and there's a lot of patterns here. You can see this black and kind of just very subtle yellow printing that goes down his neck, this blue orb that's on his I guess the top of his head. And then as for the torso, well, you can't really see too much of the torso because that's covered up by his gigantic head, but you do see some of the tailpiece. Again, those same designs, the same symmetric black and gold designs. Another inaccuracy of this minifigure is that I believe the arms are not supposed to be black in the show. They're just purple, but here for some reason they're black, not really sure why. And then on the back, there is some back printing here. But yeah, this is the very, very unique, very interesting Pythor minifigure. And now here is where we start to see four-armed Garmadon. This minifigure technically comes in the Season 1 wave, but I'm going to say Garmadon is the main antagonist of Season 2. And for now, it's first half. In this half of Season 2, we see Garmadon use the Mega Weapon. Unfortunately, we don't have a Mega Weapon piece yet, but we do have the 4 golden weapons. And now he has 4 arms. You can pop each weapon in there, and it fits pretty well. And overall, this minifigure is pretty similar to the 2011 one we talked about, with 2 key differences. Number 1 is going to be that additional 2 arms, that new piece, which is basically, it's pretty simple for this one. It's just a metal plate with ridges on it, and that's kind of it. And then the other big change is the helmet, which we mentioned earlier, which is now more slim. It's not as wide as the 2011 helmet. And yeah, that is pretty much the 2012 Garmadon minifigure that comes in Season 1. But there also is a second half for Season 2. And for that, we have a modified version of Garmadon, which comes in the Temple of Light set. And that would be this guy here. This is kind of supposed to signify the Overlord's possession of Garmadon, I think. We see now he has the Temple of, or the Helmet of Shadows, and this mask piece, which I believe is supposed to signify the Overlord's possession. But let's be real, this is kind of ugly. It just doesn't look good. It doesn't look like the Overlord Garmadon's bizarre mouth. And usually what I just do is I just take this mask piece out of the equation. And I think personally Garmadon looks a lot better when you just have the normal Helmet of Shadows on him like this. That's much better. This is much more show accurate. And yeah, so that is Garmadon for the first and second halves of Season 2. We're not going to see Garmadon for a while, but the Overlord is back in Season 3 as the Golden Bastard. This is one of my favorite Ninjago minifigures overall, and this is also the first villain to make use of the slope piece. We would not see a villain with sloped legs until 2020, although Unagami and Skull Sorcerer, they use the new, more modern type of slope. But yeah, as for this minifigure, it's very cool. You see the golden armor, part of it is physical, part of it is just printed, and I mean, the torso part all printed, but up here we see these really cool shoulder pauldrons, which are very much physical. I like these two spikes on either side. I think it's a really good touch. But as for the actual printing, very intricate. You see so many details on this golden armor. You see a symbol here, and then up there again. Underneath all of this, way in the background, you just see some purple swirls. Whatever that's supposed to be, I mean, it's the Overlord, right? Energy, darkness, pretty cool. And then as you go up here, I like this helmet piece. It feels very formal, kind of. But if you take off the helmet, we see the Overlord's full face, which is quite scary in a way. His eyes kind of like semicircles, and then his mouth, just this grin, which stretches from one side of the face to another. When you put on the helmet, you just don't really see that as much. You only see part of it, but when you take it off, it kind of changes, quite a bit actually. If we spin around to the back, there is some back printing. You see the back portion of his armor, as well as some stuff on the back of his head too. So that is pretty cool. And yeah, this is the Overlord Golden Master minifigure. If I had one complaint, I feel like the printing is too dark. I mean, this kind of stuff should really stand out. The golden armor should be bright. It should be energetic. But if you look at this minifigure from a distance, all these colors just kind of blend together. So yeah, that's my only complaint. But aside from that, pretty good stuff. Season 4 is really the start of a new era for Ninjago, and its main villain is Chen. So far, we have examined a lot of very bizarre minifigures, but this guy is really the show's first just normal, human, powerless villain. And I think that's pretty cool. We don't see too many of these villains in the show, and we're not going to see another one like this until Season 8. This minifigure is very royal. As you see, he really tries to be elegant and fancy with this cape, the first main Ninjago villain to make use of a cape. And it's not the tattered cape that we're going to see for Morro, but just this consistent cape. And I think it's pretty nice. I like how they use the cape for this minifigure. And then there's this really crazy headpiece, which is this anaconda skull with, it looks like some sort of snake attached to it. It's bizarre. It feels very exotic. It is perfectly fitting for this underground crime lord, and I think that's pretty cool. As for his face, you see he has a goatee. He's got a mustache. He's got these bushy eyebrows, and around his eyes you can see face paint. So yeah, pretty cool. And then as for his torso, just basically robes, and I like this red color that's used for him. It works pretty well with the other colors and designs used on this minifigure. And then he's got this necklace of teeth or fangs, I guess, which is pretty cool too. As for the legs, I think the legs are very nice. I like the gold stripes that go down. These gold stripes have their own patterns on them, and that is pretty cool. But overall, this minifigure is very nice. It's definitely a different kind of Ninjago minifigure compared to the other stuff we've taken a look at, and for that, it's pretty cool. Next up is the Ghost Ninja Morro, the main villain of Season 5. In the wave, this minifigure has a tattered cape, but this is technically show inaccurate. I gotta say though, it looks really cool. So as you see at the bottom, you got transparent legs. That is, you know, the transparency is a big feature of these Ghost minifigures. It looks really cool. I like the bright, kind of eerie yellowish green color that we see here. And then as you go up, it gets a bit more solid. At least the torso is solid. And you've got this kind of this light greenish belt. And then up here, a mirroring of the pilot suit, except with this green ninja piece here, his symbol. Although it's kind of evil, you see the eyes are green, and I think that is perfect for Morro, who is kind of like the evil green ninja. As you go to the top, you got this half mask, which again is so inaccurate, and his hair. And I think we can actually take off the half mask because it'll give us a better look at the head. As you see, it's very dark combined with the transparent head and the black hair and the black mask. You can't really see his head as well, but if we take that off, you get a much better look at it here. You see his eyebrows very detailed and his eyes, which have some green printing around them. And if we take a look at his head without the half mask even, you could see even more of his expression. You could see his evil grin there, which is pretty cool. And we could put the hair back on. That's already a lot more show accurate. But yeah, that is Morro, the Ghost Ninja. Another fan favorite villain for Season 6, we have Nadakhan. This is again a very innovative minifigure. Definitely a first for this collection, as this is the first main villain to make use of this ghost tail, which we're going to see later for Aspheera on Season 11. And yes, in Season 5 we did see a lot of these ghost tail minifigures, but not for the main villains, just for the henchmen or goons, I guess. And this is a really cool minifigure. Nadakhan, of course, is a genie, or I should say djinn, and we see that reflected in his design with the ghost tail. Again, really this fantasy aspect of the minifigure. But it turns out he's not just a djinn, he's actually a pirate djinn too. So you got this hook. One of his arms there is a hook, which I think is pretty cool. And you've got another four-arm minifigure following Garmadon 2012. Nadakhan brings back this trend of four arms. Yeah, and it doesn't really seem to be for any reason with this minifigure. At least for Garmadon, you know, he wanted to possess the golden weapons. That's why he had the four arms. For Nadakhan, it's really just a design choice. And these additional arms, it's a totally different piece than the Garmadon one. It's a bit more complex. You've got the Misfortunes Keep symbol on there in the center. And the colors here, great stuff. We got a lot of orange and green, and then also some red in the tail and the mask. This mask, I don't think that's show accurate. Just another one of these details that they add on to the show, or add on to the sets rather. Could be wrong there. And as for the actual printing, you see his wonderful pack of abs down there, and his head. We can see his very detailed eyebrows, and also his hairpiece makes use of this hairpiece which goes up and then down, which we see later on for Ultraviolet and Daddy No Legs. So yeah, this is Nadakhan, another very innovative Ninjago minifigure. Now, we're not just going to move on to Season 7 yet, because before that we have a few side installments. And first up is going to be the Dark Island Trilogy. And this isn't a part of the show, but it is canon. It is a set of canon comic books. And the main antagonist is none other than Klaus, who we know as the secondary antagonist of Season 4. So this is Klaus. I figured, you know, why not just include him here anyways? I owned this minifigure from before. And this isn't his Dark Island Trilogy appearance. I don't know. I don't think there's a Ghost Klaus minifigure. Could be wrong, though. But this is his Season 4 minifigure. And as you see, he's got a stern expression. He's got that mustache. He's kind of, I guess, frowning, very stern expression. And then you got his eyebrows, some kind of shading around his eyes. Hairpiece, just this tied up back there in a bun. And then for the rest of his robes, pretty fancy looking. You've got kind of like this chest plate almost with this swirl pattern. This kind of like a green circle in the center. And then his belt making use of those Edachondri designs with the two snakes that appear to be facing each other. And also I think there's a lot of purple here, which I think is really cool. You see purple just in the background of this torso, even a bit down here on his knees, which I think is really cool. And there's a ton of detail here. If we go around to the back, there's some stuff here. You see a throwing star as well as some vials for whatever purpose. Now, another cool thing about this minifigure is it is double-sided, and no one is really quite sure what this opposite side is supposed to mean because we never really see him like this in the show, so I think there's definitely a lot of speculation as to what it means. You can still speculate, but I don't know, maybe he's just casting some spell or something. But yeah, this back face does exist for whatever reason. But yeah, that is Klaus, the main antagonist of the Dark Island Trilogy. And still not at Season 7 yet, because we have Sai, Day of the Departed. Setsu Yang was actually the last minifigure added to this collection just a few weeks ago from Bricklink. Originally, you know, I thought, who cares about him? He's not really main villain, but he is in the way that some other minifigures in this video are. He is the main antagonist of Dave the Departed, and this is a very, very simple minifigure. It's different from Morro's. It's just a different style. It doesn't feel as ghostly necessarily. I don't really know how to explain it well, but you know, it is different just in terms of colors. It uses this more muted shade of green as opposed to the Season 5 ghosts, which are very vibrant. But this is Sensei Yang. He's got this ghost tail. This is the second minifigure we've taken a look at today that uses a ghost tail, but only the second ghost villain. And this tail is mostly just transparent white towards the back. As you get to the front, you see some of that green, and also his hands are green too. Now up here, he does have a torso. His torso is white, but much of it is covered by his black beard, which pretty much blocks out his entire torso. If you spin around to the back, you get a better view of this dragon symbol, which looks a lot like the symbol that Wu has, just I guess darker. And another issue kind of with this minifigure is you really can't see his face because he's got this silver sensei straw hat, which just covers up pretty much everything. Luckily, we can just pop that out of the way and we should be able to get a better look. Now you see him. Now you see Sensei Yang. He's got wrinkles on his face, on his forehead, on his cheeks, and also he has those stern eyebrows, kind of some shading around his eyes. I don't think there's anything on the back, but yeah, that is Sensei Yang. Overall, not the most memorable minifigure, but still a part of this collection. And now finally we're back to full Ninjago seasons. First up we got Acronyx, the younger twin. And you see some of those elements on his torso, on his minifigure. You actually see what looks to be a cell phone right there, and even some sweater strings. Now, if we pop off his hood, we also see kind of like an AirPod, kind of like some sort of earpod or something. But yeah, actually, I want to pop this back on because I want to take a look at this hood, because the hoods are really cool. I don't own this minifigure with his hairpiece, but the hood is great. It's kind of a combination of your standard villain hood and the half mask, and you get this, which is pretty cool, I gotta say. At the top also you have some printing, kind of like a clock, and I think that's really cool. I like that brown bronze kind of color. On his left side or right side you see kind of like this half cape. It's in green, which I think is really cool because the colors of this are nice. You don't have like just one sole color dominating, but there's kind of just a blend of stuff, a lot of red and gray and some green too. In the center, at the heart of this minifigure, is going to be a clock. You see the two hands of the clock. Very fitting, of course, because this is a hand of time. And overall, it's a very complex minifigure. There's just so many details. Even down here, even some toe printing there. He has one red arm and one gray arm. And what you're going to notice about this minifigure, in comparison to his brother, is that his colors are actually brighter. His colors are more vivid. I want to see if we can get a better look at his arm, because you see his arm is a lot brighter. And when we look at Crux, that's not going to be the case. Of course, in terms of the series, this makes sense because he skipped ahead 40 years. Crux did not. Crux is older. But yeah, overall, this is a very cool minifigure. If we go around to the back, it's a bit more basic. But yeah, that is twin number one, and now we get to look at the other one. And now for Crux, this minifigure is very similar in a ton of ways, but also a bit different. There are some differences. For starters, the cape is on the other side, which I think is cool because it kind of establishes this mirror image idea between him and his brother. Also, as I said, the colors, just a different, more muted shade of red. On the toe printing, you see this color just doesn't stand out as much. And also, if we remove the cape, we can get a better look at his arm, which, again, same case. It's not the same shade of red. It is a bit more muted. Acronyx has a cell phone. Crux has a good old-fashioned hourglass attached to this chain. And this chain runs behind to the back of his torso and then ends up here. Also, another small detail. You see this scratch on his torso near his left arm. That's not there on Acronyx's minifigure. So again, all of this, I think, makes a lot of sense in the context of the show. Crux was in Ninjago for 40 more years than his brother was. He's been wearing this outfit for 4 more decades, so obviously it's gone through some wear and tear. If we remove his mask, we get a good look at his face in this scowl with his teeth showing, a brown mustache, or a gray mustache, not brown, and then bushy eyebrows as well. But yeah, this is Crux. Overall, these two Hands of Time minifigures are very, very impressive. And now for Season 8, we have Harumi, easily one of the show's most influential and iconic villains. Harumi is also the show's first main female antagonist, and no, the preeminent definitely does not count. But yeah, Harumi makes use of this white hairpiece with bangs and longer hair down here, and white probably because her hair was bleached by the royal family. If we go around to the back, same case here. It actually covers up much of the back printing, so we don't really see too much of the back printing there. But yeah, if we go around to the front, Harumi's face, she does have this red paint that appears to go across her eyes horizontally. This just kind of makes her feel more intimidating in a way. And then you see her mouth. I believe this minifigure does have an alternate face, which we might take a look at later. But yeah, the rest of this minifigure is very dark. It's kind of hard to see because it just makes use of these dark colors. But on here you can see 3 belts, each one on top of the one under it. And yeah, even up here you see these 3 spikes, kind of, which go down diagonally. Down here it looks like she has a dark blue belt, and just some more details here, not really sure how to describe them, but you see kind of like squares or shapes down there. Yeah, she's got this red sword, which comes with her minifigure. It definitely complements this this facial detail. And now I think we should take a look at the alternate face piece, or the alternate head. That did not go as planned, but she does have an alternate head, if I can get it off. It's not really having much luck for me, but basically the alternate head shows her more with an angry expression with her teeth visible. But yeah, that is Harumi's minifigure. Again, definitely one of the best and most iconic Ninjago villains. And Garmadon is back for the third and final time in this video, now as Emperor Garmadon, the main antagonist of Season 9 and an important villain at the end of Season 8. But now we see Garmadon with his movie redesign, and the big noticeable thing is this new helmet, which is a bit wider. In that sense, it's similar to the pilot helmet we took a look at earlier. But yeah, I mean, basically the helmet is entirely new. It doesn't have any bone on the top. It just has these pieces that come out towards the top. Also, these rectangular pieces on the sides. And overall, it is pretty good. Unfortunately, part of the redesign also includes this face, which might have been fine for the movie, but it's just not great for the Season 8 Garmadon, which is supposed to be like a zombie evil. And then you get this face. It looks very goofy. Luckily, they made a new face for him in the 2019 Legacy Wave, but that unfortunately does not apply to this minifigure. A great improvement here is actually the upper torso is great. In the upper torso we took a look at for the 2012 minifigure, it was just blank. It was just bare. There was nothing there. But now we got this. You even see part of his bone with some sort of purple liquid that oozes out of his torso. It's a great detail to the fact that he is undead. He's brought back from the dead. So you got these creepy little details there, and I love that. Also, I think on his torso, you can't really see, but the Ninjago letters here, I think they say evil. I think that's what they're supposed to say. So overall, and yeah, I mean, I think you could see a better look at it now, but overall, the upper torso here is definitely one of the highlights of this minifigure. It's very detailed, definitely references the fact that he's brought back from the dead. Lower torso is just this rib cage design, kind of, which is very similar to his torso design from 2011 and 2012. I think the only difference is that now his belt is blue instead of purple, and also they may have added in an extra bone design there, an extra row. But that is the 2018 Garmadon minifigure from the Temple of Resurrection set. Overall, very good. Season 9's other main villain is the Iron Baron, and right off the bat, I think we could definitely say this is a very complicated minifigure. There's just a lot going on here. So I'm going to get rid of the staff, which, by the way, is pretty cool looking, but we don't really need it. And also this knife on his front. Yeah, but even without those two parts, this is still complicated. There's still a lot going on here. And I'd say definitely the defining characteristic of this minifigure is the top hat, which is really cool. I think it's a really nice idea for a Ninjago minifigure because normally we're used to different kinds of headgear, like the straw hat or Garmadon's helmets, but this is just a top hat, and I think it's kind of cool. Also, the armor piece on other Dragon Hunter minifigures, usually you will see this side on the front, but for Iron Bear, they just flip it around, and it works actually. You get the weapon holder up here on the front, and this mask part in the back, and it's fine. Also, you have a mechanical arm. It is pretty big. You can see that this hand is way ahead of this hand back here. And he's got the orange mechanical hand, some kind of compass or device, I don't know. Also a peg leg, like a pirate. But, I mean, yeah, you really get the impression from this minifigure that this is someone who has been through a lot of injury. We know that this is true from the show. Even if we look at his face, you will see the dragon claw marks going across the left side of his face. His eye is gone. His eye is green. And yeah, I mean, this is definitely a character who's been hurt physically. His arm's gone, his legs gone, his eye is gone. He's got a mustache. He's got yellow teeth, red eye. But overall, this minifigure is cool. I do think it is very complicated, but that doesn't make it bad necessarily. It still is good. The final main villain of Masters of Spinjitzu is the Omega for Season 10, and he comes in only one set, the Oni minifigure pack. Now, this minifigure I made a few improvements to. First off, in the set, it tells you that the hordes should be like this, and that's very clearly wrong. Very easy fix though. Just rotate it 180 degrees, and that's much better. Also, I added in a cape, because he does have one in the show, and it makes it look a lot better. As for the rest of this minifigure, he has this staff, which I think is just really bad. It's just not a good staff design. But the rest of the minifigure is pretty good. I think that the hordes are really nice. They're quite big. They occupy a lot of space. As for his head, it is the Oni mask piece. So in the past for Season 8, these pieces were used as Oni masks. Now here it's used as his actual head. If you look under, he's got a dual face, but this is not really relevant. Also, he has shoulder pauldrons, and in the set, they have you put these swords in the back. Again, the cape I just added in here. Completely black legs, there's no printing here. And the standard Oni torso with this chain of white beads or whatever, and some gray details there. Ideally, this minifigure would have had a different torso, because, I mean, he is the Oni leader. He's not just your average Oni villain guy. But yeah, unfortunately, he does just have the same torso as everyone else, but it's not a huge problem. If he has back printing, we wouldn't really be able to see it due to the cape. But yeah, this is the Omega Oni. Not a bad minifigure, very simple, but again, not bad. And now we're looking at Season 11's Fire Chapter with Aspheera, which I might have to say is probably my favorite Ninjago minifigure ever, or at least at the moment. I just love this minifigure, and I feel personally, this minifigure gives off an entirely different feel from the way this character is in the show. I feel like with this minifigure, she feels more godlike, kind of more powerful almost. Let me actually rotate it this way. But you see, she doesn't have pupils. It's just this solid eye. Also the ghost tail, which is a part of this minifigure, but not a part of the way she is in the show. So yeah, she definitely feels more ancient, more like a god. Whereas in the show, I'm not trying to criticize her for this in the show, but in the show, she's just more like a normal serpentine. Personally, I feel like this feel that the minifigure gives off to me, I think this is cooler. I think this is a cooler approach. Personally, I love the ghost tail. This is the third minifigure we've taken a look at today with this ghost tail. And here it's kind of not more like a tail, but kind of like fire, because this is obviously a fire-themed minifigure. So just imagining her with this tail made of just fire is a really cool thought, I think. So yeah, I like that. I wish they'd gone with that in the show. And yeah, I mean, as for her head, it's all gold. This minifigure is entirely gold. And you see, again, these eyes are just solid. There's no pupil as there is in the show. Also, the transparent fire, which goes on both sides of her neck. Also, I love this shoulder pauldron, which is this big V shape. But on the sides, it takes the shape of snakes, which I think is super cool. She's got the staff of Forbidden Spinjitzu. This variant for her is gold, with the fire scroll as well. And then we can see a bit of her torso. You see some of the fire designs going up into her torso. What kind of seems to be like white designs, maybe like feathers or something. I'm not really sure how to characterize it. And in the back, a very similar design. But yeah, I love this minifigure. Again, I would have to say this is probably my favorite Ninjago minifigure. And probably my second favorite minifigure in all of Ninjago is the Ice Emperor for the Ice Chapter. We've taken a look at a lot of dark colored villains in this video. But I think what really sets aside these Season 11 villains is their colors are just completely different. Aspheera was gold orange, and the Ice Emperor, not at all darker colors. Instead, we get this white color, which is dominant here. Yeah, this minifigure is great. So we get this new helmet for the Ice Samurai, which is in a lot of ways very similar to Garmadon's, but not as big. It definitely is a bit smaller, although the main ideas are definitely pretty similar. At the top, it's just all made of ice, which I think is a really cool detail. It works really well given that they are the Ice Samurai. So yeah, I definitely like this helmet. As for the face, it's not the best because In this show, he does have this mask. It is 3D. It's very much a physical object, but for this minifigure, they choose to make it a part of his printing. I think that there was no right option here. If you had made this mask 3D, it definitely would have been too big. But if it's, here just printed on the face, it doesn't look the best, but it's not a huge issue. The rest of this minifigure, I think, is pretty much flawless. Armor's great. I love how you just get these icicles that just stick out of the side of it. And then the legs are good too. You see some toe printing, some ice on his knees, and some gray colors down there. There's also printing behind this armor piece, but we're not really going to take a look at that. In the back, yeah, just this backside for the armor. The great thing about this armor is it can be used either way. So you can, as we're going to take a look at with Vex's minifigure soon, I believe you see this side of the front. So yeah, I like how it's totally reversible. You could use it whichever way works best. And yeah, he's got the scroll of Forbidden Spinjitzu here too, with the gray staff and the ice scroll. And our final villain for Season 11 is going to be General Vex. This minifigure is definitely a lot less flashy than the other two. I don't think it's as colorful necessarily, but still. Vex is definitely a main villain for Season 11's Ice chapter. And yeah, this minifigure makes use of a lot of gunmetal gray colors. So again, going back to those darker colors, which we kind of got a break from with the other two Season 11 villains. Yeah, he uses the exact same helmet as the Ice Emperor, as Zane, except this one is, of course, in gray, matching up with the rest of his colors. So that looks pretty good. As for his face, very, very unique face, because he's got this mustache, which almost looks like a frown, but it isn't quite a frown. This is his mustache. He's also got sideburns as well, and yeah, a stern expression. I'm wondering, does he have an alternate face? I don't believe he does. Yeah, he does not. So yeah, going back around. Again, I talked about how this armor is reversible. So on this side, we're seeing this part of the armor in the front with the ice being a bit more dominant up here. Also, another cool thing is this arm is entirely transparent. It's like an arm made entirely of ice, which I think is a really cool detail. We also see a lot of maroon colors or reddish colors with this minifigure underneath the armor on this arm. I'm sure we'll see a lot of that if we were to take a look at his torso printing. And then the legs, a bit more of that. Some ice on the knees, some armor down there, and he's just got a staff. I think another variant of this minifigure comes with the scroll, but yeah, this is General Vex. Moving on from Season 11, we have Unagami in Season 12. And this minifigure marks the return of this key feature, which is actually going to be the skirt piece. This is the second Ninjago villain to have a skirt piece, the first being the Overlord in Season 3. But this one is a bit different because the Overlord made use of the old skirt piece, but this is the new one. And the key difference being is that the slope is curved, actually. So yeah, Unagami marking the return of this feature, which we're going to see again for the Skull Sorcerer, which we'll take a look at right after this. But this is a darker colored minifigure making use of these Prime Empire colors of red, blue, and black. But up here, a big difference is these white pieces, the hair and the beard. I believe this hairpiece is new for this minifigure, but it's pretty cool. You have the hair just covering his head and then tied up into a bun here. Pretty good stuff. And I believe his beard is actually just the Santa beard, which we usually see for Santa minifigures, but they choose to use it here. I know this minifigure definitely does have a dual-sided head. If you take a look at it here, you get the Prime Empire V at the top, a dashed eyebrow, which is kind of similar to Jay, and these markings on the side, which are similar to Zane's minifigure. But if we spin around to the back, definitely the angry expression here, which we do see in the show a few times. Really just red, just these red designs, and pretty cool. The armor, I think, is Mr. E's armor from Season 8, used here for Unagami. And then really just the design for the torso. It's just a lot of abstract stuff, a lot of lines of red and blue, some dashed lines here, some horizontal lines stacked up on top of each other, some dots there. Overall, really good. I think it's quite abstract, but it works very nicely. And the cool thing is, if you spin it around to the back, it's the same case. There's a lot of printing here. It's a very detailed minifigure, and Unagami, I think, overall, very well done. And the main villain of Season 13 is the Skull Sorcerer or Evangelus. Again, this minifigure is going to make use of the skirt piece. So we have back-to-back villains with this skirt piece, Unagami and the Skull Sorcerer, both coincidentally for 2020. And I think the more notable feature of this minifigure is that it is the first main Ninjago villain we've taken a look at today, which has wigs. This minifigure does not have robotic wigs, of course. back in season 3, and I'm sure other seasons we've seen villains with robotic wings. But these are just natural wings, and I believe these are from Chiba, the bat wings. I don't think these are new, and they're attached on the back. Quite a big attachment piece here. It goes back a distance. But yeah, as for the rest of the minifigure, it's really cool. This hat and mask, it's just one piece. It's just connected, and it's very different from the way it is in the show. Here, it's definitely more elegant looking. It's just these eye pieces, these slits, which are much bigger here. In the show, he's got a mouth not present there, just blank space. So again, I think it definitely looks more elegant and mysterious here. If we take this off, there is a face, which looks like his face in the show, but just this black version with a diamond in his forehead, green eyes, bushy eyebrows. So yeah, that's pretty cool. We don't really see this face in the show. As for the rest of the minifigure, here we have the skull of Hazadur. His weapon, I guess, it's just this green skull pretty much, which he holds. And then the torso, yeah, so we see a lot of green parts. The Ninjago text here is supposed to read Dead Rise, but this is a well-known error. It actually says Dead Earth. One of the letters is in the wrong spot. But the rest of the minifigure is pretty good. You got this symbol here in light green, and then some straps or strings that go down, also in light green, and his arms or his hands are white, kind of a contrast to the rest of the black. If we go around to the back, there's no back printing on the skirt piece. There should be some underneath the wings, but we're not going to take a look at that. So yeah, this is the Skull Sorcerer. Overall, a very innovative minifigure. The island is kind of an unusual case because we could say Ronin or Chief Mammatus, but for this video, we're going with the Chief because this minifigure is way cooler. Now, first up, he does come with this gigantic staff with a lightning piece at the end. It's huge, as you see, and we're just going to get this out of the way because we don't need it. But this minifigure is very, very nicely colored. It doesn't have a single dominant color like Aspheera or the Ice Emperor, but rather there are a bunch of different colors that all just kind of work together very nicely. I think the highlight of this minifigure is this headpiece, which is so complex. You see 5 of these pieces with these turquoise endpoints. At the center, there is a symbol and this turquoise circle. And I also like these tusks on either side. If we take this off, we see his face. We see this angry expression with these gigantic teeth and more tusks. And if we go around to the back, similar idea, but now this time his mouth is open. Also, you'll see this minifigure does have a cape. So far, the capes we've taken a look at in this video, it's just black capes, but this guy actually has this reddish orange cape, which I think is cool. It works nicely with the colors. Yeah, the torso, the skin, it is this pastel shade of purple. In the show, the keepers, I think, are a bit better colored. They're kind of like this electric, very vibrant purple. Almost, you know, if they were to be colored that way in the sets, they'd probably be transparent. Personally, I think that's better. I think it's a bit cooler, but this is still good too. And as for the torso, just the armor, basically, clothing. You see the Wojira symbol, which doesn't really look like Wojira at all, or just some sort of sea monster. More turquoise details, just a lot of brownish gold, kind of, and some knee printing. Yeah, overall, this minifigure, I mean, this guy, his name isn't even mentioned once in the show, but he does have a pretty good minifigure. And we finally reached the end with the main antagonist of Season 14, Prince Kalmaar. So this minifigure is definitely underwater based. It appears to be kind of like a squid, and it makes use of this tentacle piece, which I don't think is a new piece in general, but it is the first time we've seen this piece for Ninjago. It's pretty cool. You see he has a number of tentacles, most of which can be seen on the back, but also a few are visible from the front. So you see a tentacle here, one over there. It's pretty cool. It definitely suits this minifigure. Also, he's got a trident, which is just basically like an average trident. In this show, it is colored blue and then later pink, but here it's just gold all the way through. And now if you go up to the top, he's got this new head mold, which is pretty cool. You see his fins kind of towards the top of his head with purple and again this turquoise color, very similar to what we took a look at with Mammatus. In the middle of his face, you see the eyes, which I think are very creepy. And then this piece here, which is kind of like a mustache almost, also just some more details on the forehead and on the nose. Now, this minifigure does come with this armor piece, which is not in the show. And personally, I think this armor piece is great. I really wish it was used in the show. I really like it. But on the flip side, the thing that isn't in this minifigure but is in the show would be his crown. Normally he does have a crown which is on the top of his head starting in episode 6, but he doesn't have that here. He just has a bare head pretty much. And now he's got this torso with some pink details on the side, which I think definitely stand out. Overall, it's a very nice contrast. And then the actual torso definitely mirrors the Mammatus guard torso with the scales or abs kind of at the center. And then down here, some chains of gold, some other gold details up here. Kind of looks like a skull. I don't think it is a skull, but that is kind of what it looks like. And yeah, I mean, this is the end of our main villain journey, ending it off here with King Kalmaar. And that wraps up this video. If you watched the last 40 minutes, genuinely, thank you so much. I hope you guys found it interesting. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, subscribe, share with anyone and everyone you know. Share your thoughts on your favorite villain that we discussed today, and I'll see you guys next time.